Hey everybody, welcome to episode 45 of Tactical Crouch, or a competitive Overwatch podcast. I'm your host, KickedTripod. With me, of course, the two biggest brains in competitive Overwatch. He's everyone's favorite German curmudgeon. It's Yiska. And of course, the Overwatch Oracle himself, especially this week, Volamel. Man, this week is kind of a crazy one, right? We've got the Washington Justice hand Vancouver their first 0-4 in the franchise history, actually. Just one match later, Chengdu does the same to NYXL. This week is the week of...
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
And we're going to take it and break it all down on the show, because I feel like I am taking crazy pills this week, Joe. Are we...
I too feel like I'm taking crazy pills. That was pretty good. I like...
It's
Really? You didn't like that? I thought the song was great.
I thought that was the lowest point I've ever had in watching Overwatch, actually.
Oh, really? I quite enjoyed it. I think it's interesting to see how some of the teams are adapting, see how the meta's changing.
I mean,
it's obviously a nice refresher, nice nice change up. I don't like where it's positioned in the season, but I'll take it.
But the thing is, like, I'm not mad at everything. I enjoyed watching Corey pop off, for instance. That's all fine, right? The problem is just that once again, the severity of meta changes has been demonstrated. And these mean nothing to me, these upsets, especially in the frequencies that they happen. It's just unsatisfying all the way through. If this keeps going on, this entire season is meaningless to me.
Well, I mean, okay, so again, let's not poo-poo everything. I mean, look at the numbers, right? Like, let's look at the 2 weeks. We've got 3 upsets. Let's see next week at what might or might not be an upset, and go from there. You know, it's not doom and gloom. You know, step back from the edge, my friend. Let me embrace you. It's okay.
not the entire season, Yiska, just the first 3 stages.
I mean, the first 3 stages are then... I just then have to figure out if Vancouver or Shock were the best team during that time.
Sure.
Probably slightly Vancouver, and then I stop caring about it from now on and just take it for the clown circus that it is.
I feel like each stage we've had that week where it was just like, what's real anymore? And then it all goes back to normal. Or you just kind of adapt and... I think so.
I don't know if we did. I don't know. I mean, to be fair, in the very intro, we said two teams who have never been swept before, got swept by 2 teams that are in the bottom quarter. Well, I guess not technically the quarter for Chengdu anymore, but like 1 loss away from being in the bottom quarter of the entire league, right? Teams that just barely got into some double-digit map wins, and it's, I don't know, man. It was a special week, an unprecedented week for upsets in Overwatch. I don't think that there's a precedence. I know Yiska is probably still feeling it from. The funny thing is the London upset gets swept under the rug. We don't even get to talk about the 0-3 for London.
Yeah, I mean that
you kind of expect that
happen in any match,
right?
That's not even an upset. That's just London being London. But
sometimes you just roll the dice and you get snake eyes. It's like, oh, well, we lost. Oh, darn.
True.
Like, again, we see how good they were against the Charge. The Charge are absolutely surging this stage. They play London. London looks dominant, and then they played Florida and didn't prepare. Were 2 different teams. London against Charge, 1 team. London against Florida, completely different team. Somehow forgot what they were doing. I don't know. It was bizarre. Don't know how to explain it. It's, you don't, like, again, I love it. Monty's analogy. These are the kids that show up, don't do any of the homework, pass the tests, pass your class with a C, and go on to do great things.
I like my analogy in accordance to the one Sideshow made for... Of course I like my analogies. Sideshow made that
the
jazz music thing. That then was also dragged onto the broadcast and then also made inadvertently unfunny towards the end. But
harsh criticism there. All right.
I mean, Yeah,
I don't think you get to police what's a good analogy and what's not a good analogy.
No, the analogy
you've got some pretty
fire. The analogy is fire.
He's saying the joke was tired.
I don't think you saw the segment where
Probably
they
not.
like had 5 or 6 or 7 plays where it was probably 5.
Oh yeah.
Where it's just like, okay, what is it like?
Is it jazz or not jazz or whatever?
Once again, this thing worked. Oh, let's drain all the fun out of it. Just beat it to an absolute mush until it's irrecognizable. But I said London is the violinist who uses his violin to cut his eggs in the morning, his hard-boiled eggs, and loses 3 fingers in the process. That's just, and then sometimes they show up for a concert, and I like, what's his name, Lang Lang? Or no, that's a pianist. What's his famous American
I have no idea.
violinist? Okay, yeah, it's some pop culture artist even.
This is esports, Yiska. This is esports. Yep. Very weird week. We're definitely going to talk all about it. Before we do, and before we jump into the news, there's 3 things that you need to know before we just jump into it all. Number 1, the show records live every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, except for this week. We're here on a Wednesday. Sorry about that. We blame Yiska. It's actually my fault. We record live Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific at twitch.tv/KickedTripod. Number 2, if you like the show, go to patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. You can support there. Get signed up for great perks like a special role in our Discord, guaranteed playtime on our game nights, and more. Just kind of helps us keep the production quality up and going. We're not too far away from just removing all YouTube ads from the channel, which would be pretty cool. So you can listen on YouTube without having any ads. And we're also in the process of doing some audio upgrades for Joe and Yiska. So all that goes there. Number 3, you can watch and listen to the show anywhere where you can find podcasts. Watch or listen to them. YouTube, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iTunes. It's all there. It's all there everywhere. Let's jump into the news, which this week is brought to you by our patron producers, Battlecrab, Made, and Peter Y. Thanks again for being such amazing supporters of the show. You 3 are the bomb. Let's talk about the news. So over the past week, the Hangzhou Sparkev had kind of a rough go with former T1W DPS Crystal, who I dropped that T1W in there. Brings me back to brings me back to our contenders days, Joe.
Kind of miss it.
Those were outside of the lack of sleep. I miss that too. So Crystal, after taking a personal leave from the team in the first week of July, was fined after not returning from his personal leave on July 25th. From there, it gets kind of messy. There's a lot of kind of back and forth where there's some things with Crystal's girlfriend supposedly waiting on an offer, not getting it, expecting it, waiting on it, then some visa issues potentially, health issues potentially, communication issues definitely. And so from then on, Crystal's not going to be playing for Hangzhou anymore. And Joe, how do you feel about that?
Kind of unfortunate, but you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. If you don't want to be professional, then it's going to be kind of hard for a team to front that bill. It is kind of disappointing to see him not in a stage that could actually be really good for him. I think the Spark are kind of hurting now that they don't have a very talented DPS player to kind of help them along. I think he'd probably do quite well with this meta game. I did notice in, I think it was a .esports article, that they mentioned towards the bottom of this whole summarization that apparently Crystal was asking to be traded and was passed on the charge. The charge passed on Crystal when offered a trade. I think the Justice and Boston all passed on him when he was offered to them, which I thought was pretty interesting. But outside of that, yeah, it sucks. kind of get your stuff together, and hopefully maybe we'll see him back next season. We'll see.
Yiska, on a scale of 1 to 10 about drama you care about, where does this sit? Where does this one sit for you?
Not very high. I mean, it's kind of sad because this kid obviously had talent, but like, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. That's just how it is. It's very disrespectful. I actually feel way more bad about the coaching staff and the players that counted on him to be there, and now they're currently crapping out as well. After the signing window, no less. Mm-hmm. Though, to be fair, the organization could have reacted earlier, because this was a saga of a situation.
Yeah,
I think
going all the way back to before the season started, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, you could have. It would have looked weird, but gotten one more DPS player just there. Also had Buzzy back earlier with the team. Maybe you knew this and put Bazzi back in contenders in order to give him some practice time with that team. That is possible. Maybe that was the strategy. Whatever it is, though, it's not working well, is it?
No.
Like, I'm not as low on them as, for instance, Reinforce. I just saw. I think he has them either 17th or 16th right now. Ooh. I don't think they dropped as low.
No,
but
that's a plump.
They are definitely a below average team right now.
Oh, definitely. I wouldn't. I mean, I don't know. I don't know where I'd put them. Below average for sure, though.
Yeah, I mean, they're a team right now who is 0-2. They've only won one map in this stage so far. As far as the league standings go, I mean, they're fourth, right? They're kind of, I believe they're guaranteed for top 12 no matter what. So they're guaranteed for play-ins. I think the question is if they don't lose their kind of, right now they're kind of guaranteed in the top six, or not guaranteed, but right now they're in those top six, and they're dropping quickly. So I don't know. We'll see. And then if that does happen, if they do not, is this a Crystal thing, Joe? Is this something, no. if Hangzhou can't come together and kind of hang on and they fall down into play-ins, can we just equate that to Crystal not being there?
Not at all. I think that they surprisingly have a lot of flexible players that can play DPS. I mean, they have Sashin on this roster, Adora, like Godspeed. They've got like a nice little talent pool of DPS players to kind of pull from. Are they as talented? I guess you could argue that, but I don't think it comes down to individual performances. I think this is just a slow adaptation. Again, this is a multilingual roster that has shown cohesion and coordination problems in the past. So with this big meta overhaul, are we going back to relearning and learning how to communicate again in this meta? I don't know. I think there's a lot of things that lay outside of just mechanical performances with this team that are affecting them, that kind of are not out of their control, but they're just going to have to work through. There again, look at their record so far. Like, they've only won one map, sure, but they've also played against Atlanta, who look very, very good. They played against Charge, I believe. And next week they're playing against Chengdu in New York. This is a schedule that's pretty difficult. So
it's not easy.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say specifically it's just Crystal. I think it's a lot of things kind of compounding on each other. I don't think Crystal leaving or it's being suspended indefinitely helps that at all. But
right.
I wouldn't put it all on him.
Fair enough. Well, let's talk about the other thing that came up this week, which is the Overwatch League awards. The Overwatch League announced 3 additional awards for Overwatch League's second season. Last year, we had the Dennis Hoelka Award, which was received by Dallas Fuel Off-Tank Mickey, and then Overwatch League MVP, which was won by NYXL's Jonak. The regular season MVP this year will include a 25% fan vote, combined with votes from GMs, head coaches, and media, which I don't think they did last year.
The media votes?
They changed it. I think they changed how they weighted the fan vote. So basically, anytime a fan votes, I think now it's just 25%. So I know there was a lot of criticism about looking especially at things like all-stars teams maybe this year, where the fan vote was maybe a little
skewed,
a little too fanny and not enough skill-y, I guess. But on top of those two, we also have the they're adding a word called Roll Star, which will be a collection of the top 4 players per in-game role. So DPS, top 4 DPS, top 4 tank, and top 4 support. Similar to, like, I don't know if you're familiar with baseball's Golden Glove, where essentially from each position there's somebody who is kind of recognized in each conference division. I can't remember which I can't remember which one's division and conference anymore. Who knows? But you get what I'm saying. So it's kind of the same thing here. So that's going to be going on. Yiska, fan of this?
Isn't it weird that it's per role in the sense of tank, DPS?
I don't think so. I think it's weird of how many.
Why is it not one flex DPS, one main support, right? It would be weird to just like
two flex supports or the support when
when the idea is compartmentalization to like honor the best performers on their roles, then why not make the logical next step and just say, okay, best main tank, like flex,
because those are roles that aren't kind of like dictated by Blizzard. They're kind of like community jargon at this point. And again, like I agree with you, but devil's advocate, Blizzard's like, well, they're not ours, and we can't support it because we don't use that terminology.
I'd be more receptive if their verbiage wasn't so incredibly useless.
What do you mean?
Like, just like how they designed the game and how they introduced language has honestly been lackluster.
Well, because they haven't been consistent with any of it. It's like, okay, well, we have defense heroes. Okay, we don't have defense heroes. And everybody's an offense hero. And okay, now we have 2-2-2. And
this has all been them backpedaling, though, on their initial vision, right? Yes. Like, we've come a long way from no hero limit
100%
kind of things where, like right now there is a main tank or an off tank. There is a flex support and main support.
Mm-hmm.
Is there ever a world where you maybe don't see a flex support and you see 2 quote unquote main supports? And what does that look like? And does it limit then the award structure, right? That would be my guess why they didn't just name it that way.
Sure.
Because they've been they've kind of shown themselves to be kind of increasingly incapable of predicting or influencing the pro.
100%. Yeah.
Then again, they themselves cannot categorize them, seeing how they think Sigma will be played as a main tank. So maybe that's the reason.
Yeah, we'll see on that one. Definitely weird. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I was more weirded out on how many players are getting this award. I'm just like, well, if there's literally like 12 players that are getting this award, like that doesn't feel like much of an award. It's kind of like an honorable mention. Granted, that's just semantics, but
I would have liked them to go the gold glove route.
Yeah.
And be 1 per position per division.
I like that a lot. Per division.
If you're going to ride out that division thing, might as well make an arbitrary line somewhere.
Yeah.
Still 0 names of those would have been Prophet, by the way. Or Fury.
It's
how much do you have to compartmentalize? Like, it's honestly possible that you can call a role the best Fury, and both Overwatch League GMs as well as press would manage to not select Fury in that. Like, it's comical, dude.
It's also going to be super hard with a lot of these awards too, because of how different this last stage is and how recency bias is going to play into that. Like, Corey looking fantastic against the Vancouver Titans. Does he immediately get put into the Roll Stars vote? Probably not. Or at least I don't think he should, because all season long, he really hasn't been there. He's been starting to get better. They have been putting him on heroes and roles and positions that make sense for his style of play and his hero pool and Washington's kind of evolution in their style and how they play. But just because he has one game at the end of the season or one stage at the end of the season doesn't mean that he's going to be an MVP voter or Rookie of the Year.
No.
And I think we have to kind of temper expectations on that.
What we do know about how this is voted on as well. So GMs, head coaches, broadcast talent, and media will vote, but the eligible players are measured via the player impact rating system.
Ah, okay.
So presumably there's there's a minimum player impact rating that in order to be eligible for that, which is good. And they also need to have played at least 60% of minimum possible maps this season. We call that the Pine Clause.
The Pine Rule, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's number one. I don't know. Again, right? It feels a little participation trophy-ish at four each, but I don't know. I'm a fan of this type of award. Like I'm a fan. I think
the recognition is great.
Going beyond just recognizing a singular league MVP and a singular not toxic player.
Sure.
But I don't know.
I mean, it's nice, right? And what it does, and it's like also like Chad is pointing it out. Not just because of the PIR, but pay impact ranking, but it's like the thing I said before. It probably fits to Huxell much more because him not being top 5 is a bit of a meme. Like,
it's pretty ridiculous.
I mean, even other than Twilight, like he was definitely a better player this season than Janu was, in my opinion. So,
100%. Like I like Janu, don't get me wrong, but.
Even in the time frame, even in the time frame that's supposedly. Oh, do we want to clear this up real quick? Okay, so a lot of people said MVP voting was done, or it was reported that it was done based on only half the season, right? That only the first 2 stages were considered. That is technically not correct. It is. In the way I think how it worked, or how it has been reported to me how it worked, is that ballots were given out at the, I think in the mid-season. I'm not 100%. Don't nail me on that. And then the GMs had time, I think, until late of stage 3 in order to vote. So some GMs actually just wanted to have that out of the way. Also, shame on you for doing that. For not taking the time to observe it and then handing it in at the last possible moment as it should have been done. Also, reconsideration for Blizzard, please. Just make it a three-day window. I know it will be hard to collect then, but this is important enough to just enforce it.
Yeah.
And that's how it came. And I will also say there are definitely GMs that took this very seriously and did hand it in late.
And now they're fired, right?
No, they're.
Kate was one. Just kidding. That's the real scope. Yeah.
Is that the thesis?
Yeah. There's the leak for this episode. So another award that we have is the Rookie of the Year award, which is any player who is not signed to an Overwatch League contract in Season 1 is eligible for this award. As far as we know, there's no eligibility as far as how much they've played or anything else. So Flower is eligible. Maybe. I don't know. But besides that, I don't know. I like the idea. Maybe I don't like the idea of a Rookie of the Year.
I like Rookie of the Year going forward, but this year,
I like Rookie of the Year 5 years from now.
Yeah. This one's like, well, we had 8 new expansion teams with 8 new rosters. That's a lot of rookies, guys. Like,
yeah,
the term rookie really doesn't hold much weight in the Overwatch League as of yet. We're only on year 2, so like, again, moving forward, it's going to be a great award. I think this year, if done properly, could be a very good award as well.
It's MVP runner-up,
basically,
isn't it? Right?
Kind of.
I don't know. It's a I don't know. It's a little sloppy this year. I think they tried to spin it in the press release a little bit, where they're like, it's gonna be really spicy this year with all the new rookies, and I'm just like, well, actually, it's just a MVP 2.0. It's second place MVP.
Yeah.
There's a chance that the MVP this year isn't even a second year and is a rookie, which doesn't say that much because, I mean, it's only been a year.
What also is a rookie in Overwatch?
Yeah, I mean, if we're being honest, in every league that gives MVP to a rookie and then doesn't give the rookie trophy to the rookie,
I wonder if they can win both. They have to, right?
Yeah,
I mean that would be the necessary conclusion, right, of this. Also, let's humor for a second what it means to be a rookie in Overwatch when a guy like Twilight has been sitting there
since
a rookie. 2016, and
it's a rookie player, rookie Overwatch League for it.
It's like if Tom Brady transfers over to the European Football League.
Yeah, is he a rookie
it's
there? I guess.
Rookie of the year is Tom Brady. Well,
you see all those rings he has?
He basically wrote the playbook for these guys over here.
Yeah. Haxall the rookie. Yeah.
It's I don't know. Again, I like awards. Whatever.
100%.
That's cool.
100%.
I like finding ways to celebrate talent that isn't just about who's on the most winning team, because there are a lot of players who are not on winning teams who are exceptional, who get overlooked because, well, they aren't on NYXL or Shock or Titans. And so, great. Let's do more of that. Let's create more of these awards that celebrate more of the skill rather than the result. But I don't know. They're 80% of the way there for me, I guess, on that. Where's the Overwatch League Podcast of the Year award, by the way?
Content Creator of the Year.
Too broad. We wouldn't be. You guys would probably individually be considered.
We would be.
You two would be, but
entered as a team.
I don't know if the podcast would be.
Tactical Crouch LLC.
Let's go.
The best Overwatch podcast called Tactical Crouch with the hosts. Blah 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 blah.
Exactly.
That one I think we can win. That one I think we can win.
No, they would manage to make it Bloodshot. I'm pretty sure.
It's still Bloodshot. Yep, that's it. That's the one. All right. Last piece of news for the week. ESPN did put out a report that the Outlaws franchise sold, still doing some of the paperwork stuff for $40 million. So Lee Zeben, a real estate investor in Houston, has agreed to terms with Immortals to purchase the Houston Outlaws for $40 million, according to Jacob Wolf and ESPN sources. The franchise will be repurchased for $30 million, and then they will also take on the $10 million in debt that the franchise currently carries in what they spent on Jake.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, it's good to see that they're finally getting the ball moving with whatever happens in the off season, and getting that kind of not roster, but that entire brand kind of revitalized again. They have some amazing fans, a nice home market. Let's see what Houston can finally do when they properly are funded. It's nice. It's wholesome.
So if ESPN league sources are correct, they've also, said that league slots in season 2 went for as high as 60 million.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that they basically just got a cheaper league slot?
It's possible. If numbers are right, then yeah, it sounds like they got a nice little bargain. I think it was probably, again, talking completely out of class here, but when you're looking to kind of sell, you don't need an ownership group owning 2 teams at once. So it's like, okay, we need to make this deal sweet so we can get this problem solved. You know, you cut somebody some slack, you drop the maybe. Well, is it the evaluation is dropped, or they drop the price on it? Which is it there?
I think what actually happened is like this 60 million figure. I don't think it was like through like everyone had to pay 60 billion regardless of slot. I think that's just the evaluation of Houston at this point, especially like having to fight the Dallas Fuel for Texas, basically. I think that's just what Houston is worth at this point, especially now that it's divorced from OpTic, right? Like, I don't know if the green wall type of support that honestly wasn't even that impressive in Overwatch will remain with Houston.
Yeah, I don't know, but at the same time, Houston does have a pretty big following.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the jersey sales number thing in there, but I thought that Houston was pretty high up there on the list. Like Houston Outlaws were pretty big as far as like fan bases go, at least from like the numbers that we can see, right? Because we can't see every skin purchased in Overwatch and all these other kind of arbitrary numbers into it. All we can kind of see is that Houston Outlaws fans are loud. And at the very least, they're louder than Dallas Fuel fans, if not more of them.
Yeah,
I don't know, but
I mean, just because Chad is saying Houston is one of the biggest fan bases, absolutely, but like that is still dwarfed in comparison to what OpTic was for a game. OpTic was like FaZe, like before Hector took a step back. These guys were like a cultural phenomenon through and through. Maybe they were like 10-20% behind FaZe at the time. Honestly, like getting those investors in, like getting Hector out of this, it's not the same brand anymore. And it also has lost a lot of steam if you just look at the content due in comparison to the trajectory that's FaZe, despite like shitting every bet that came across them in the last couple of months, still keeps growing at a much faster rate, right? So absolutely true that Houston has one of the biggest fan bases. You guys weren't ready for what it would have been if actually the entire OpTic fan base at the time that OpTic acquired that slot would have completely committed to it and kept growing at the same pace that OpTic was on.
I think Bren has a great anecdotal reference to how big the green wall, or this just fervent OpTic fan base was. I think he mentioned on a podcast a long time ago about when he did a Dota event. He was a commentator for a Dota event, and there was an OpTic game, and he was trying to get his bearings in Dota. And the numbers that just the OpTic name alone would pull was insane compared to anything else he was commentating on at the time. So it didn't matter if you were a Dota fan or a Call of Duty fan or a, I don't know, Rocket League person. You were an OpTic fan and you supported those guys whatever jersey they wore in whatever game. It was wild. I remember in season 1, hashtag Greenwall would always be trending the second they got on stage. It was impressive how passionate this fan base was when they probably couldn't give two flips about Overwatch, but it was OpTic and that's their team, so they show up.
Yeah, it was a lifestyle brand at this point.
And
it sucks to kind of have it removed.
And that's really what I think Overwatch League is trying to hope to like transfer to geographic loyalties, right? Like they want OpTic, but they want them in Houston. They want OpTic, but they want them in New York for NY itself. And I won't even go down that. We can't go down that rabbit hole today. We can't go down there today. Needless to say, and especially with Call of Duty World League coming up with their own franchise things, and how many of these teams and squads are kind of rumored to be a part of that as well. Like the idea is to, I mean, I don't know if we're gonna get a Philadelphia Fusion Call of Duty team. I don't know if that's something that we can do or can be done. I know that there's some restrictions that like the Fusion can't go into other games, but I assume that that's different.
You mean in general? No, like Overwatch League brands have first right to buy an Call of Duty slot, so they get asked first. And I also think that for Philly it makes sense because they're infrastructurally investing so much with the arena and whatnot.
Got it. So that was my question. I know that they can't go and like they can't be like, we're going to be the Philadelphia Fusion Smash team. Right. Like they can't do that. But presumably any Activision Blizzard geographic league based thing sounds like they kind of want to keep that together, right?
It's a good question. Yeah, I think they gotta create a new brand for that. I don't think you can say Philadelphia Fusion for the COD team, because then if someone buys your brand, they're buying both slots. But you want these slots to be independent, so probably they will have to somehow once again split off the brands. Yeah, the brands. That's a loss.
Which is, it's always a loss when you have to do that, especially if you can't get all of your Overwatch League investors to buy in. You're also kind of either giving an advantage or a disadvantage, depending on who it is, with new investors coming into specifically the Call of Duty World League, because that was the same thing that was the issue with the Overwatch League, is that they didn't want to allow, from my understanding, they didn't want to allow traditional inherent esports teams that have built these brands for the last couple of years an advantage over the Cronkies coming in and building their own franchise, or the investors in the NYXL coming in and just having to build their franchise and their fans from the ground up. They didn't want to give like Cloud9 or OpTic or FaZe or whoever else kind of a leg up on that competition, because
I mean, it's probably not even that. I think they would have liked to take that cloud. It's really just about being able, and now we actually see how valuable that decision was, because now you can buy Infinite Esports,
sure,
then split it off from in OpTic and use an Outlaws, and don't have to keep the entire thing. I think there's a possibility that they will have very defined rules where they can keep the one brand and also have it for Call of Duty. And then in the case that this organization wants to sell, then you can split them up. But what do you do with the names? Then one of them got a rename, and it's maybe that's part of the
I don't think you ever really want to do that, do you? You ever really want to just rebrand? I think that's pretty dangerous, I think.
I mean, maybe
I wouldn't say dangerous.
Maybe you're not convinced. I mean, it's possible that they just like give you like one or none, like two or none, right? Where it's like you either buy into Overwatch and Call of Duty, or you're not getting a slot. That's possible, I guess. I think it would cause some complications, but I wouldn't know. I'm already.
My guess would be that you probably get a pretty hefty discount for buying in both.
For sure.
Like,
I would imagine that's how they sell.
You spend $60 million on an Overwatch League slot, or you spend, or I would say, $30 million for an Overwatch or $40 million for an Overwatch League slot. But if you spend $60 million on that Overwatch League slot, you're guaranteed
we'll handshake agreement you first dibs
for a COD thing
on a Call of Duty.
But this is definitely that was announced. All just pure speculation.
Yes, we're
normally we're pretty like about things, but this is not one of those. This is not one of those little winky face moments. No. Speaking of winky face moments, though, I think Corey had a pretty winky face week against the Vancouver Titans this week. The Washington Justice definitely been the talk of Overwatch League this past week, sweeping the Vancouver Titans 4-0, handing the Titans their first 4-0 loss, and the Justice's first 4-0 win as well, by the way. So bunch of firsts for a bunch of teams. You like to think that against a team against the Titans that these maps were close. They weren't. I had to watch them twice. I'm like, there has to be just like, but there were literally times where like on Volskaya Industries where the Justice were just, they basically held for 2 minutes without even having to take a fight. They never once had to even engage a fight. They were like Maywalling the right flank on point B. And then one person would get caught. Corey would snipe him. They'd have to reset. And it was just, oh man, it was just awful. So
Map 4 was the very definition of mentally boomed.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen anyone boomed as much as they were boomed? Like they were not talking, it just like, get this over, please. Just carry me out of
this
here.
map doesn't matter, please. I just want to go. These chairs suck.
Yes.
So Yiska, you're I don't know, you're sleeping probably in EU during this match, right?
Yeah, I was. I didn't watch it live, I think.
So you wake up.
I mean,
you open up your Twitter feed.
Half.
You're like, what? What's your reaction? You all of a sudden you open up the Overwatch League app or whatever. You find out that the Titans just got 4-0'd by the Washington Justice. And how high was the window that you jumped out of?
I mean, I think I watched a decent part of it live actually, but I remember rewatching it and just thinking, okay, this is like, okay, I don't want to dampen the mood, dude, but like these results honestly had me on the verge of tears. I don't know. I cannot, like, that's my honest emotion. It's just like I was so disappointed in the structure of this game that this was possible. It's like people have been arguing, well, this is just like teams underestimating other. Like, I don't think even like all of those upsets, like with some exceptions, London could have happened.
Sure.
I even think, I don't know, like the Toronto loss, the Titans loss, like these matches, if you play a best of 100 in GOATs, I don't think those teams win a match. Sorry, a best of 100 matches. I don't think these teams would have had the chance to win a match before.
Yeah.
So realistically, their chances were a car crash on the way to the venue, and now it's like it looks so easy to break them. It's, man, that really, I don't know. It made me really, really sad.
I think I can kind of see where you're coming from, because the assumption was, well, good teams. It's not the very basic opinion that like, oh, if you're good, you'll always just adapt. But it was that these top teams, the Shock, the Titans, the NYXL not so much, because I think they were on a downswing towards the end of stage 3, but those two teams in particular showed a level of adaptability throughout the season so far that you kind of would assume that they would be fine in this metagame. Kind of said the same thing about Shanghai as well. And so far, Vancouver hasn't looked bad, right? 3-1 against Shanghai. Nice victory. Shanghai should be doing pretty good. Now that we have 2 weeks of data to kind of pull from, maybe not necessarily the case. Then they go 4-0 versus Florida. Business as usual. No problems here. And then the Justice happens. I still don't think Vancouver's bad. I think that this just might be the perfect storm for Washington. I think what we saw was a lot of comfort. Also, Vancouver had playoffs last stage. That's a week of preparation that this team did not have, that these other teams did have, right? So I think we're going to see a trend where a lot of these teams that didn't play in playoffs had more time to prepare, and so they're going to take a nice early lead. I don't think Vancouver's going anywhere. I still think they're a very, very strong team. They just have work to do, right? And it's sad that the patch has to come in at this point and ruin some really potential, like some really cool storylines that wouldn't have existed, or maybe even are kind of spoiling. But yeah, it's weird. That one was bizarre for sure.
That's shocking, not tongue-in-cheek, shocking. So interesting enough, right? So right now, or I guess at the time, this was essentially 25% of the Titans season map losses came in one loss to a team that is the second worst in the league, -37 map differential. That's after the results from last week. So definitely, I mean, definitely a big one. It's really easy to look and give Corey a ton of credit. But Joe, was he your standout player? Was he the one that you think?
He's kind of hard not to be, but I think that Stratus deserves a lot more credit than what I think people have been giving him. I think his May play has seriously set this team up for success.
Insane.
I think it's been probably some of the smoothest I've seen. I seriously think and hope that he gets some credit. And it's, I guess, to be the typical foil here, I'm kind of sad that if this Washington Justice squad is actually as good as they show in this match, it's actually kind of depressing that we won't see them in playoffs. There's no stage playoffs for them to compete in. They're already out of seasonal playoff contention, so they won't be in play-ins. And Yiska wrote about this, which you could check out on Upcomer. Please do. Click those ads. They might be the best team that you just won't get to see. I mentioned this on another show. Like, I hope if this actually ends up being the case, I don't think they should like make an exception to get them in, but I think like maybe having some exhibition matches just to kick off the show, like after the big musical event, would be cool. Just to say like, hey, yeah, we made this patch change. That sucks, we know, but what if we give you an exhibition match so that you can play on stage? It doesn't mean anything, but just to show off that, yeah, we were really good. Yes, we kind of made them this change in the end of the season that definitely affected some teams' chances. We can at least give you that, right? Give you an exhibition game, just a couple to kick off the show, have a little bit of fun. Who do they play? I don't know. We'll have to figure that out at the end of the stage. But I think that would be nice if indeed, Washington just goes 7-0. Right? I don't know. It'd be kind of cool.
But that kind of speaks to how big of a deal it is that they changed the meta so significantly. It's one thing to have like patch changes.
Yes.
It's another thing to entirely change the format.
The game.
It's kind of a big deal. And to Yiska's point initially, it was what were these first three stages for? Like, why did we have them? If now 2 seasons in a row, the best teams going into it aren't the teams who were the best over the entirety of the season. It was the teams who tended to trend up at the end of the season. Yep. Which doesn't feel great. I think it feels better than watching a stale meta as a consumer.
Yeah, I agree.
But like if I were let's just use Vancouver. I don't count Vancouver out of anything. I think that if anyone can adapt and bounce back from a loss like that, it's probably Vancouver.
And they've shown that. Look at the Valiant match. Look at Valiant Vancouver, and then look at the match that they played after that. Different team.
Yeah. So, but to use like, I don't think that there's teams that are just kind of like totally out of it, but it just sucks that the idea of season playoffs is ultimately to reward and showcase the best teams in Overwatch League. But because so much changes throughout a season, you often don't get that anymore. Right? You're just, who are we looking at for season playoffs here? I don't know, looking at the team Philadelphia Fusion. Are Philadelphia Fusion a top 12 team?
Right now, hard to say. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
It's hard to say with them. It's hard to say with them, yeah.
And so there are so many people, and I think every time that we've talked about how much we think it's fair for good teams to be rewarded for being good. There's somebody who comments and be like, I like the Cinderella stories and I like that, but it's a little bit different when Cinderella doesn't exist here, right? It's not like a team that kind of earned and squeaked their way in. It's a team that, like, you kind of roll the dice, right? Who's going to be good in this meta? Oh, these 6 teams, and maybe 1 or 2 teams who are so well positioned, Shock, Titans, not really even NYXL at this point, unless they can really turn something around and figure something out that they haven't in the first 2 weeks of this stage. You've got a bunch of teams now who are just kind of like hoping for a good role in the meta, right? And that kind of sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a gamble. The thing is,
100%.
It's like re-rolling in TFT. It's a gamble. Don't pre-roll, guys.
Was actually like all you need to do in order to facilitate meta changes without patches is give them time. That's all you need to do.
And we saw that at the end of stage 3.
Yep. And we definitely saw it at the end of stage 3 as well. Time is such a vital factor in all of this. The problem is, dude, I cannot describe the crusade that I went on in order to, like, internally and whatever, just like talk to people that these patches are completely ruining the competitive experience. I'm defeated at this point. I've accepted it as a force of nature that next year we're going to have patches every 6 to 8 weeks. It's going to be massively influential to how teams do because of the asymmetric schedule. It's not like it's planned. We don't even have stage playoffs where we can say, okay, like if you think about stage playoffs, right? They were so great because of the recency bias, because of saying, okay, we're limiting this. Now, the 7th and 8th team in stage playoffs, as Dream has pointed out correctly to me, and I completely agree, were most of the time trash and locked into it.
Yes.
Based on the schedule. That's fine. That's still 6 teams that are like bomb at this meta and delivered. And because of this recency bias, no stage playoff or stage playoffs will inherently always had a much higher chance to produce high quality games than the season playoffs had. And empirically, this observation also, or this theoretical hypothesis holds up because, like, look at the season playoffs last year. What a shit show in comparison to, like, the stage playoffs we've had, right?
Mm-hmm. So what about this, Yiska? How would you respond to a format where all of a sudden we lose season playoffs and we do 4 stage playoffs? We take the entire season pool, break it up, or the stage playoff pool, we break it up over the 4 stage playoffs, and then at the end we reward teams for where they finish overall in the season, regardless of how they did in those individual stage playoffs.
I mean,
so a big part of it would go to how they performed in their stage playoffs. So right now, what is it, $250,000 or something like that?
Something like that. Yeah.
Let's just say hypothetically $250,000. Let's say you make it $1 million per stage playoff now, and then at the end of the season, you have an additional $2 million that you break up between teams 1 through 20.
Yeah, I'm not even opposed to just saying, okay, then let's see an aggregate. So let's actually do a tournament based on these playoffs and pair up the champions previously.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not like the super playoffs, right?
And then we roll a dice for which meta is which. We actually roll a dice
what patch are we playing, boys?
Not even the patch. You actually roll a dice on the individual hero changes. Do we get Sigma? No, we do not get Sigma. Do we get 222? Yes, 222. But hold on. We do not get any of the diva changes.
Yeah.
Just kidding. We're not going to do that.
Honestly, you're going to hate me for this, but my order of operation, or my hierarchy of structures is, I would of course always prefer a circuit system, right? Like, we travel around, have these weekend tournaments, whatnot. We can't have that. Fine. My next go-to is actually the Overwatch League system with the stage playoffs, because they set high points. Then the next one is no playoffs, none. We are only playing 2 round robins. We're not having playoffs. And after that comes next season's system, where we once again rewarding random people at the end of the year because whatever the patch is, right? And what the minimum requirement was in terms of, like, maybe, and it doesn't sound like. Wait, are we going to have play-ins next year? I should know this.
I have no idea.
I don't think so. We will.
Do we know? I don't know.
You could extend the play-ins. That's another thing you could be doing, because, like, I accept that it is probably okay. The Washington Justice, if they go 7-0, they're not a bottom 3 team anymore, right? So what could happen is that the Washington Justice then, for instance, slip into 16th place. And that would be play-ins. And then we're brawling it out. Now, the regular season would feel a little bit irrelevant in terms of, like, only 4 of those don't make it. Yeah. And then also the seeding is largely influential. Like, I don't care. Just give them a huge bonus for being higher then. But give the teams that have a late burn the theoretical chance. Just imagine, dude. Okay. So the Washington Justice, all of this happens, and then the meta change happens, can only happen because, once again, it's a force of nature at this point. And then they actually become the best teams. We get bomb play-ins, we get bomb playoffs because of that. And imagine the Cinderella story.
Yeah, what a storyline. That's incredible. I want to write about that. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
I do feel compelled to bring up the point that I know you keep saying the meta change is inevitable, but the meta change ultimately came close to suspiciously close to around the time when teams were informed that 2-2-2 is going to be happening.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I think that is, I mean, it's not impossible that this was a factor, but I think the lion's share of really what it was that teams had time to figure stuff out. And yes, then the direction that they're
too long, and honestly, 4 stages too long for a meta to situate itself out.
I mean, arguably, it happened after midseason, right, where Sombra was brought in, and then like that. That's
sure, but even starting to see that adaptation, like, people were pretty sick of goats going into season 2, weren't they?
Yeah, but okay, the problem is that the Overwatch League teams didn't think it would be around this long. And let's not forget, meta is as much a social construct as it is a thing that follows from the game, right? So because teams didn't have the luxury of time to figure it out, or didn't take it, let's be honest. Like, some teams did take it, and that's why the Chengdu Hunters, or that's why you're Lord, basically, is what I'm saying.
There it is. He's finally admitting defeat. 3 weeks left, a little early.
I mean, it's mathematically now that he's a Lord. But
oh, yeah, that's right, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. It actually, I think last week, was it last week? No, last week was already, like, Mayhem was already locked in last week. So, but yeah. Yeah, I think. Wait, I've lost my. Where was I? Oh yeah. Time plays a huge role, and time will be a much more scarce resource, I think, next year, because the season is shorter, and yes, the teams do have 8 to 10 weeks. And this thing's pumping. Holy, ow! But
what are you doing over there?
He has a blood pressure checker on at the moment, so it's squeezing on his arm to check as he's building up to this massive.
He's
blood
feeling
pressure.
it right now. Okay,
yes,
got it.
Yeah.
Calm down.
I'm looking forward to that talk with my doctor. What did you do?
Yiska, it's okay. London will probably qualify.
Yeah.
What happened?
Wait, doctor, you
those
listened to the
1.5 hours. Don't do that ever again. What is this? You're dying there.
Why is it that every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, your thing starts going off every 10 minutes?
I also think you'd be able to check Yiska's Reddit history with his blood pressure. Every time it just peaks to like ridiculous highs, as he probably is ranting on a hill somewhere on Reddit. So yeah, Doc, let's get this kid off the internet. Huh?
Yeah.
It's not good for his health.
All right, sorry, Yiska, like, you definitely lost your train of thought now. By the way, we definitely left that one at the harbor. The next hill.
The thing is, honestly, like I understand the temptation to just become a controversial personality now, because in my mind, I honestly, yes, I addressed controversial topics. I didn't do it in an unfair way, and the way I was approached in those discussions and what was said about me, it's just like, well, if I'm being fair and I'm still being treated this way, and I'm not making the hits that I could be making by completely trolling the shit out of you, like, what's the point, right? Other than my internal integrity that will uphold for a couple of more years until I kill myself.
That's a question that you have to kind of ask yourself, you know,
in virtual reality, by the way.
Yeah. It's a German sense of humor thing.
Yeah.
God bless.
Let's be honest. I like my blood pressure won't allow that. It will get me before that.
Okay. All right. That's it. So, Yiska, I have a question for you. You got to be short because we've got about 15 minutes left before I have to get out of here. So my question for you is this: are the Justice right now for real, or was this just a trap game for Vancouver?
Too early to tell. I don't know yet if they're the real deal. I can tell you that Corey's the real deal.
Corey's the real deal. Okay.
Yeah.
Why was he the real deal the previous 3 stages?
Because he's been playing Zarya.
Because he's dude. Look at this timing of his bubble. Look at the timing of his bubbles. I think honestly, like
he's the real deal on not DPS.
Yeah. He's a great aimer. You know, they're having fun on stage. You know, playing loose. They don't have anything to prove, so they kind of have that underdog edge. Now he doesn't have to make a bunch of decisions and have to coordinate with, you know, one guy who's playing in the back and then Jonas is charging forward. Like, that team was a mess in GOATS. Now, you know, you can have some individual plays. You know, Corey, this team wants to play loose. I think that this is their style. They tried to play this slow style before in GOATS, didn't really work. Now they can kind of flank and play loose and have fun with it, much like the Vancouver Titans kind of did once before as well. They kind of stole their smile in a sense. You know, Vancouver was that fun-loving, happy-go-lucky team, and now it's the Washington Justice, funnily enough.
So, I have a follow-up question. So, are the Justice for real? It says too early to tell. Justice aren't qualifying for any playoffs. It's mathematically impossible. The next 2 matches are against Boston and Houston, and then they go against the Atlanta Reign and Paris Eternal. Do results in any of those games or any combination of those games change your mind? Because those aren't exactly powerhouse teams. Arguably, the Reign is the only...
Atlanta would be the only exception.
Is the only exception. So, at what point in these next 4 matches does it go, yes, the Boston or Justice are for real?
I mean, if they lose any of the 3 obvious ones, I would be concerned.
Yeah.
Okay.
If they play the Atlanta Reign close, it's not a problem because Atlanta Reign can also have a perfect stage here. Like, they might even get direct playoff qualification. That is still entirely possible for them. I put out an article. I forgot what the percentage was, but it's non-trivial. I think it's up to, let's see here, the Atlanta Reign. Where are they? Reign. Probability of making top 6 is 33% or 34%.
That's not bad at all for Atlanta.
That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
And they're like 99% locked in for the season now.
Right, which is great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So
this is all based on Eric Durr's Monte Carlo predictions.
So basically, so to simplify this a little bit, if Atlanta 4-0 out of this, or not, if Atlanta, if Washington 4-0 out of this, they're the real deal. if they lose to any one of those three teams that are not the Atlanta Reign, they're not the real deal.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I'm guessing there's something there where if they play well against the Reign, there might be some room. If they play well against the Reign and lose, like in a close 3-1
that would be kind of
or 3-2.
that'd be a 6-1 stage, right?
Yeah, but that's still a huge gray zone, right? For like how real is your deal, because you're not getting tested, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So it's interesting, right? So there's a lot of people who are like, they want to jump on they beat Vancouver, they've earned it kind of thing. And don't get me wrong, it was a decisive win. I said it in the beginning, it was not close. It was not something where it's like, ooh, the final score is misleading for, the amount of competition in the match. No, it was a stomp. But it's one match, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, it's still just one match. And you're not super smart if you're like, no, I'm all in on the Justice. At the same time, you're not an idiot either.
Yeah.
Like, they did look so good
because
against the Justice. I understand the temptation. But there's a real possibility in which we will never know how good
100%.
the Washington Justice really are in this season. At the end of the season, in this meta. Because the schedule right now is... you probably couldn't have picked in a worse 3 out of 4 teams.
The one thing that gives my soul a little bit of rest is that at least I know for a fact that you Americans will absolutely overhype Sleepy and Corey during the World Cup. So cheers for that.
Yes, of course. Like it's I can't. I don't even want to talk about World Cup. It's just like irritates me to no end. That whole situation. Also, like, not. I like where I live. Don't get me wrong, but I'm also not just like USA till I die. It's like, I mean, I again like the place I live. Very, very thankful that I got some sweet RNG when I was born, but. It's like a game, guys. I don't know.
you enter in a collective stroke, and all you can smell is apple pie. Like
apple pie, hot dogs, and barbecue. Like it's burgers. I don't know. Like freedom. Like it's. I can't. I can't do it. I can't do the whole USA World Cup patriotism.
I can. Let's go. Sleepy's the best Zen we'll ever have in the world.
There he goes.
Come on.
There he goes.
He clicks heads, baby. That's all that matters. He's Jonak just without the situational awareness. And when you're a Zen in this meta, you don't need the situational awareness. He's a god. Is that good? Did I fill the part?
Very accurate representation.
I can see Yiska's sleeve. just
we need to hook him up to like a heart rate monitor.
I know, right? Need one of those Pac-Man machine looking like actual industrial grade things in there just to keep it all straight. All right. There is one more thing we need to talk about. And I need to get ready for this one.
Oh no.
What did you do? Oh no.
Has a tinfoil hat.
Oh, that's a nice fold. That is.
Thank you. I Googled how to do this. Hold on here.
That's also definitely the way you put it on. Nice.
All right. Here we go. All right. Are we ready?
Okay, I'm in the
I'm
mood.
so scared.
I'm immersed. I'm very immersed.
Last time Baroy showed up, so I'm a little worried.
I'm ready to storm in Area 51.
Here we go. Are you ready? There's a theory that has been getting a lot of traction this past week. It's no secret that the Washington Justice have struggled through the first 3 stages, despite the reported fortunes they spent to poach the great Wizard Hyung from NYXL. Well, what if I told you that this was his plan all along?
That he picked these players with a 2-2-2 meta. It was by his design. Is this just another conspiracy theory? Or did this all-seeing, all-knowing Wizard Hyung God really see what we were getting into? Let's discuss.
No, you did not.
I did.
Not at all. That was great. Well done. That was 200 IQ.
All right.
Quite enjoyed that.
So there's the theory. Wizard Hyung, Washington Justice planned on 222 all along. They were always this good. They just mistimed goats and were incapable of putting together a team worthy of goats. Thoughts?
Okay, so let's break it down, right? Every team trialed 222 because it makes sense, because you're trying to build for a DPS meta that is eventually coming.
You need to know every hero pool and every player that you're trialing. You need to know their breadth of experience. Yes.
Also, every team worth its salt would say we also try to plan for goats in a way, because we knew it was at least 1/4 more likely that it was going to be half of the season, right? That is also true. Now, teams took their resources in order to build these flexible rosters to be adaptable to all.
So much better with this music.
Matters,
by the way.
right?
Okay, yeah, keep going.
Fair enough. So, some teams did better with their resources that they had. Some teams did worse. Some teams didn't have resources and therefore did worse and therefore required to lock in. Washington Justice is not one of them. Their salaries are at least average in the Overwatch League, I would say. And I don't have full information in terms of the Chinese teams especially. They're most definitely, Boston is probably half the salary of that team. So that is also not an excuse that they didn't have the resources. It is possible that they planned with more resources and then someone said no more resources and therefore they couldn't further expand. But with the resources they had, they could have accommodated more. And without naming specifics, I don't think also the concern that Corey needs to be paid big bucks. I think we got one stage probably out of him to establish that, and for that he's already good at making good money.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts? Is there just a world where this is anything other than people finding the
no? This is just
conclusion
exactly
kind of justifies
yes
whatever the variables. They found the answer and they just filled in the variables for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's completely spinning it.
To be fair, Avala's post didn't exactly help with those speculations.
Not at all.
I'm not sure if she intended it to sound that way.
It's pretty coincidental that thread pops up and gets that much traction, and then she tells the Korean Overwatch community, which obviously I don't know that they frequent Reddit all that much, especially Arcow. But to see its way there, it's a little fishy that would be like a reference, because again, like you mentioned, and again, I can back this up, many teams did trial other compositions other than goats. I can't comment on if teams did not trial goats. Apparently, some people are saying that there were teams that didn't trial goats at all. That's possible. But I know for a fact that teams did trial for, not specifically for 222, but they trialed other compositions that, yes, do fit 222. There's triple DPS, there was Brigida bands, there was this and that bands, all kinds of different maps to get a full understanding of who you're trialing and where they excel and where they don't excel, right? Which makes sense. And if that's what she's saying, then I totally agree 100%. But the coincidence that it kind of comes after Justice doing well, this thread pops up.
What if they were like 0-3 right now and be like, yeah, but we planned for this?
Yeah, why not? Would you really come out and say that then? I don't know. Like, it's just very weird to me.
Also, important to note, teams definitely didn't know before the season that 2-2 was going to come.
No, don't miss me with
that. I think first or second week of stage 2 was when it was
just started talking about.
Told to them that this will be coming at some point. They didn't have a time frame at that time, and they also didn't have a vote on the timing yet, right? Like that vote was then initiated later on for the timing. And yes, also Overwatch League teams brought that upon themselves.
Yeah. All right. This is kind of an awkward place to stop. I don't want to stop here, but I actually have a meeting I have to go to. Joe, Yiska, what do you guys feel about maybe doing a little shorter, like 35 minute bonus episode where we talk about the other 2 upsets that we didn't quite get to this week, which was Chengdu and London.
I need to gloat, and Yiska needs to feel more bad because his team lost and my team won.
Yes, my lord.
There it is.
I like the sound of
that. We're gonna try and do that. I'm gonna try and do everything I can to make that happen. Yiska and Joe are really really busy guys, so
yeah, we'll talk. I don't know. I don't want to say tomorrow, but I'm here.
What do you guys think if we could theoretically wrap this up into a game night where we go from half an hour crouch into a game night?
That might work.
Maybe. I mean,
we'd have to do game night pretty quick, though.
Yeah, we'd have to be doing that soon. But anyway, we'll figure it out. We'll
get it. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. Upcoming matches to watch this next week: Guangzhou versus Seoul Dynasty, Fuel versus Gladiators, and Fuel versus Shock. Fuel have to win essentially both of those if they want any chance of making play-ins. Yep. Shanghai Dragons versus San Francisco Shock, and then the Charged versus NYXL, who, Joe, I know you're predicting this to be another quote-unquote upset, Charged taking down NYXL.
I was on a couple other shows recently, and a lot of people were still like NYXL, and I'm like, guys, you got to get with the times. Charge is doing good. NYXL is doing bad. This is easy money for Charge.
Are doing good without Char or without Crystal? I mean, you've been consistent on this.
Well, Crystal plays for Spark.
Sorry, Spark. Oh my God. They're the same, right? Hangzhou, Guangzhou. They're the exact same thing. It's been a long episode.
Spark, Charge.
Name your cities different. It's Minneapolis and Indianapolis. It's not that difficult.
Also, the stuff that a tinfoil hat does to your brain. It's just...
man. Make microwaves. You let a couple of them through.
It's been a tough one. I think I need one of those things now. Check my blood pressure and whatever else.
Don't throw this away. You can use it for protection against
microwaves. Exactly. Yes, it's a protection against the microwaves.
You're telling me to microwave this? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, of course.
Microwave this tinfoil. Got it.
Don't. God, please don't, kids.
Don't microwave tinfoil, guys.
Please don't.
All right. No new patrons or 5-star reviews, but those are 2 ways that you can support the show. Patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. Head on over there, sign up. We've got cool stuff there. We really do appreciate all the support. It helps us be able to devote more time and effort and up the quality on the podcast. So we really appreciate that. 5-star iTunes review just makes us feel good, but it costs you nothing. So go to iTunes, make an account. It takes 5 minutes. Leave a 5-star iTunes review. Tell them Yiska sent you, and we'll read it on next week's show. Individual shout-outs really quickly, Yiska. Where can people find you?
On my Twitter, Yiska out, and upcomer.com in the Overwatch section.
Sweet. Joe, what about you?
You can find me at Volamel, Volamel. Busy this week, a lot of podcasts. I'm still writing a pretty fun piece about Chinese regional style and how Chengdu are kind of a nice example of that style. So be on the lookout for that.
Awesome. As for me, you can find me everywhere at KickedTripod. Maybe by this time next week, maybe not. I'm actually doing a TFT podcast with my friend Ray C, who's a professional Hearthstone player turned professional TFT player. And we're going to have I shouldn't even say it. We're going to have an amazing first guest for episode 1. So if you're into TFT at all, go follow Zero Econ Pod on Twitter. And we'll post all the info there, and it'll be everywhere else at Zero Econ Podcast. Really excited about that, though. This has been a fun episode. Thank you all for hanging out. We're not going to stay for a post show, but we might be back soon for a bonus episode of Tactical Crouch. Talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.